everyone, welcome back to another video on crack concepts, and in today's video we will be discussing 8 mistakes that you should avoid if you're a beginner in SQL. These are 8 things that usually beginners do not know. Also, make sure you watch the video till the end, as the last tip is the most important. Make sure you do not make that mistake as a beginner at all. Do not make it. With that, let's begin with the video. And before I start with the 8 mistakes that you need to avoid, make sure you hit the notification button so that you never miss a video from this channel. Let's begin. So the first mistake that usually people do is they do not know the order in which a query is executed. So if you see on the left hand side, this is how a SQL query is executed. First we have from and join. If you have a join clause, then over here it will be written over here. Then we have the where clause, then group by, then having, and then you can have a window function over here just in case. So another select query over here, order by limit. Otherwise the original select query would be over here, but this is in case of window functions, order by limit. So you should be knowing the SQL query execution order. This is an example over here. Select customer ID, sum of total amount, from, orders. So we have the select statement over here, then from, then where, then group by, and then order by. So this is the order in which a query is executed. You should know this order. Number 2 is using select star. If you do not know what columns your table has, then it's perfectly fine to use select star. But if you know what columns are there in that particular table and you do not need all those columns, you just need a selected few columns, then you should specify those columns instead of writing star, because it can result in unnecessary data transfer, memory usage is more, and your query performance will be very low. So if your original query is select star for employees, a better or improved query would be when you specify the column names which you need from that table. So this will result in better query performance. Third mistake that usually people do is not using indexes. Now, why are indexes used? Indexes are used to make your query performance better. Because if you do not use indexes, it can lead to full table scans. And when the whole table is scanned, it can result in slower performance. So it's better to use indexes. It's better to create indexes for columns that are frequently used in the where clause. If customer ID or employee ID, this particular column is used a lot in where clause, so it's better to create an index on that particular column so that your query performance is improved. How do you create an index? You simply write create index and then you give a name to it. Over here I've given the name IDX last name, on which table employees, and what's the column from the table employees, last name. So an index will be created on last name. And how do you use the index? Simply just use that particular column, last name, in the where clause. This will result in better performance. This is example number 2. Suppose you have an index on customer ID and the original query is select star from payments, where payment date is 2024-0501. But there is no index on the column payment date. But there is an index on column customer ID, and you know which particular customer ID you want. So you use that in your query and this will result in better query performance because you are using a column that has an index on it. Next mistake that people usually do is they do not know the difference between count and count star. When I say count, I mean count of any particular column, and count star. What is the difference between the two? Count star returns the count of all the rows in the table regardless of nulls present in that particular column. So even if there are nulls in the column, it will count them. But when you write count and a particular column, so it will only return the number of rows that have values in it. The nulls will be discarded. The nulls will not be counted. So for example, if you see over here, if your column has these values ABC, null, PQR, XY, Z, null, null, what will count of this particular column result in? 1, 2, 3. So count will return 3 because there are 3 values over here. But count star will return all the values regardless of nulls. So count star will return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So count will return 3 and count star will return 6. So it's very important for you to know the difference between count and count star. Otherwise, you will get different answers and that will confuse you. So it's very important to know the difference between count and count star. Next mistake that usually people do is comparing nulls. Now, what is null? Null is a special marker in SQL that represents the absence of a value. If there is no value, then it is null. Remember that null and zero are different. Zero is still a value. Null means nothing is present over there. So whenever you're writing a query and you want to find if a particular column has null values, a lot of times developers write where that particular column is equal to null. They use this operator equal, which will result in wrong answer. Instead, you should be using this where that particular column is null. So instead of using the equal operator, you should be using is null. This is an inbuilt function. Same goes for not null also. You do not write where that particular column is not equal to null. Instead, you write where that particular column is not null. So this one is correct. So this is how you can handle null values correctly. Do not use the equality operator, but instead use this is or is not null. Next mistake that people usually do is using distinct unnecessarily. The distinct keyword is no doubt a very powerful tool in SQL. It will allow you to remove duplicates, but it can also result in slower query performance. Hence, make sure you use it only when it is very important to use. A lot of times you can avoid it. A lot of times that particular column has distinct values and you still use the keyword distinct. So make sure you're using it only when it is important. A lot of times you can also use group by clause to eliminate duplicates. So try to understand the requirement and use distinct only when it is necessary. Do not use it unnecessarily. Next mistake that people usually do is they overuse subqueries. A lot of times subqueries can be replaced by joins and joins work faster. So you need to see the requirement and use subqueries or joins appropriately. Subqueries are slower, no doubt in that. So instead you should be using joins. If your original query was something like this, select department name from departments where department ID in, and then you have another query here. Subqueries can be very slower. To improve this query, what you can do is you can use a join instead. Simply join the two tables on the common column, which is department ID. That would result in the same output. So better use joins than subqueries wherever it is possible. And the last mistake that beginners usually do is that they do not practice SQL on their own. They just watch videos on YouTube or complete courses on Udemy and stuff like that, but they do not practice SQL on their own, which can result in not mastering SQL. Which is why whenever I solve complex SQL queries on my channel, I ask you all to pause the video and solve that query on your own. That way, you will learn SQL even better. HackerRank is another very useful resource which you can use to practice SQL for free. Go leverage it as much as possible, practice SQL as much as possible, and you will master it in no time. That is it for today's video. I really hope you all enjoyed watching this video. Make sure to like the video, comment down, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Also, go check out our ebook, our SQL ebook. Go check it out. Go check out all the other playlists on the channel. Go leverage it as much as possible. With that, I will end this video. Thank you so much for watching.